Hello, Internet. So I went ahead and this is my final revised copy. Almost final. I'm going to read it out loud and probably make some changes as I go along. But this is what happened on December 7th, 2012. Okay, so over 4 years ago on December 7th, 2012, I believe it was a Friday, I lived in a two-bedroom house on 319 Iowa Avenue. And it's in Louisville, Kentucky. It was just a few blocks south of Churchill Downs. And that's where the Decadent and Depraved Kentucky Derby is ran annually. So here's a little picture, just give you a little idea of the setup of where I was at and where I was living. So you have 4th Street right here. This is the main drive. This is where 4th Street Live is. Churchill Downs is over here. University of Louisville is a couple blocks. It was 12 blocks or so that way. So this is in South Louisville. And this is my house. This is Iowa Avenue here. This is M Street. And so Iowa Avenue is my home. And I went to go walk to the store, the gas station, which is right here. And so it's just, I just go right here. So it's a short little distance here. Then 1 block, 2 block. Now I'm at the gas station. So I was only walking 2 blocks away from my home. And I only got 1 block away. So I walked to 4th Street and I'm on the sidewalk here. So I walked down here, walked to the sidewalk here. There's a bike shop right here. So I don't know if you're familiar with, there's a dollar store right here. So this is Iowa M Street, 4th Street. So you should be able to figure it out, if you want to do Google Maps. So I walked up here and then I walked across here. And then I crossed M Street without incident, and then I'm standing right here. And while I'm standing right here, there's this car right here, and it's just sitting here. It's a plain white car just sitting there. While I'm standing here, I look both ways. Nobody's coming this way or that way, and then I proceed to walk across the road. Okay, so let me get through some of this stuff. So at the time I was living with Jason Zucchero. He was my roommate. I stayed there for a year. At the time I was a graduate student at Spalding University. I was working on becoming a high school social studies teacher by going through their 2-year teacher training MAT program, the Master of Arts in Teaching. So it's about 6 p.m. It's just after dusk. And while it was slightly raining, it was a light sprinkle. I decided to go to the local gas station, which was exactly 2 blocks away from my home. I walked. Now, I could have drove my vehicle, my car. I had a Jetta at the time, a black Volkswagen Jetta, but I didn't. And I regretted that decision later on. I decided to walk instead on that nice, cool, and slightly dreary and rainy night to the convenience store. I stepped onto the sidewalk just outside my house, turned right, walked about 100 feet, right, down Iowa, like I had showed you here in a minute. So I'm only 1 block away from my house, just walking down the street, walking down the sidewalk, going to the store. And that's it. That's all I'm going to be doing. I'm just walking, okay? It's probably the most boring story ever, but you need to know each and every detail. So I was just walking. I was going to buy a beer, a 40 ounce. I was planning on just sitting in my house that night, drinking a beer that Friday night, and watching some TV. And I had a pocket full of change. I had about $2 worth of change or so. I was wearing sweatpants, and I had a loose-fitting gray old navy jacket. So, house clothes, sweatpants, and a little, throw-over jacket. And while I was about to cross 4th Street, I looked both ways. No cars are coming, but there was a plain white sedan car who was just sitting, across the street from me. Just sitting there. Plain white 4-door vehicle. It's like a Toyota Camry. I heard it might have been a Dodge, but it's kind of like a Taurus, just a sedan, a plain white sedan. There were no decals on it. There were no, no emblems on the side of it that said that they were the ambulance or, something official. There were no sirens. You didn't hear any sirens. There wasn't even that spotlight wasn't even there. And then the cop lights on top of the car. There was no cop lights on top of the car, nor were there flashing lights. So they weren't, going somewhere at all. It was just a plain white car. It was an old, unmarked 4-door white sedan car, and it was just sitting there. They didn't have their blinkers on. They weren't moving at all. They weren't going forward. They weren't going anywhere. In spite of no cars coming, that plain old white car just sat there for about 3 seconds or so. So it's reasonable to assume that they weren't going anywhere, that whatever they were doing, they were going to continue to do so. So therefore, I proceeded to cross 4th Street. legally. You're allowed to cross a street at an intersection, even if there's no crosswalk at that intersection. In fact, you have to cross at an intersection according to the Kentucky Driver's Manual. Also, in his grand jury testimony, Joel Cassie, a LMPD police officer, admitted that the city of Louisville didn't even have the charge of jaywalking. So if they could have said that I was jaywalking, they couldn't even have charged me with it because there was no such thing as the charge of jaywalking. But it doesn't matter because I wasn't jaywalking anyways. I legally crossed the road. There was no crosswalk there. I looked both ways. I crossed at the intersection just like the Kentucky Driver's Manual says. So even though I was crossing the street legally, that plain white car is going to do a borderline illegal maneuver. Okay, they're going to go ahead and circle around in in the intersection. Okay, so this is what they're going to do. So here I am standing on the corner, and it's as I start to walk. As I start to walk, this is going to spin around, and they're going to try to go the other way. So they're doing a U-turn, but in order to do a U-turn in an intersection, you have to go around the perimeter of the street. And so as I'm crossing, I thought that maybe they were just going straight, but instead they were doing this U-turn here. They were doing this like 180 sort of circle, the turnaround, a turnabout kind of thing. It's a 180 degree turnaround. And they had to drive wide, circle the entire perimeter of the intersection to be able to make it, which is different than a U-turn. Because if you do a U-turn, you got 4 lanes. You got the median. You could just spin around the median. But if it's just the intersection, well, you got to, circle the perimeter, and you got to make sure there's no people, crossing, make sure there's no cars coming. And, and at an intersection, there's barely enough space to circle around it. So if that maneuver isn't illegal, especially in a congested city on one of their main 4th Street is one of the main streets in Louisville, then it really should be. If it's not illegal, it should be. Folks, driving 2-ton vehicles spinning around an intersection is much more dangerous than a peaceful citizen legally crossing a crosswalkless intersection. So they do this 180 degree turnaround, and they about nearly hit me. I had to lean my legs forward so that the car didn't hit the back of my legs. So as I'm walking, I see the headlights. So they eventually come around to me. I'm looking this way, and I see the headlights from behind me, and I kind of look to the right, and so I see the car like right there. I had to like lean forward. I don't know if you can see that, but I just had to lean my legs forward so that they wouldn't hit me they wouldn't hit my legs. So they about clipped my legs. They about run into me, right? If you want to get crazy, that's like attempted vehicular manslaughter. He tried to run me over with his car. And they were within inches of my leg. I could see the light streaming past me from their headlights. I glanced back to the right side. I saw that they were very close. I leaned forward, and somebody, probably Aaron Browning, yelled, "Get the fuck out of the road. Get the fuck out of the road. Get the fuck out of the road." That's what he yells, okay? And that's what Joel Cassie said Aaron Browning did, but Aaron Browning denies it. So nobody says, "Get the fuck out of the road." They're saying I made this whole thing up. So they about run into me, and I didn't jump out of the way. And they said, "Get the fuck out of the road." And then I just said, "Fuck you," back to them. I was just like, fuck you. And I threw my left hand up like that. And I kept walking forward. I kept walking straight. I didn't turn around. I didn't confront them. I kept walking straight. So I kept walking as I was doing. I was trying to cross the road in peace. I was just trying to get to the store. Just because they had almost hit me or cussing at me, that didn't mean that I needed to immediately jump out of their way. Which is what they wanted. Which is the crime that I actually committed that started this whole thing. That and saying fuck you back to cops. But in that moment, I'm getting jumped by some white trash thugs. Some local punks. I don't know who these people are. I don't know why they're messing with me. And after I said fuck you back to them, responded in kind to their initial "get the fuck out of the road, hello," they were immediately triggered. And then they drive around, all crazy. Okay, so here's just 3 pictures real fast. Okay, so this is what they're going to do. They're going to spin around like this as I start to walk forward. So here's a better picture here. So I'm walking forward. Here I'm just taking a couple steps around the road. Now the car is right there, about to hit me. It's about to hit me. They said, "Get the fuck out of the road." I said, "Fuck you." And as soon as I said, "Fuck you," then they spin around me in front. See, they almost hit me. They're behind me. And then they spin around me, all the way around me, and they stop in front of me. They stop in front of me to block my path. So I couldn't keep walking forward. They blocked my path. Okay? So immediately plain white car about run over me, tell me to get the fuck out of the road. I said, fuck you back to him, kept on walking. Then they spin around. Within, 2 seconds or so, they're stopped right in front of me. Well, what are you going to do? What would you do? What would you do if you were stuck in that situation? You don't know who these people are. They're about to run over you. They're cussing at you. They're parking, blocking in front of you in the middle of an intersection. Who are these people? Okay, so they blocked me from being able to cross the road. So now I'm scared. I don't know who these people are. I don't know why they were acting crazy, what they were capable of. I was afraid for my life. The plain white car didn't have any decals on it that said the police, nor were there sirens, nor were there any flashing cop lights. There wasn't any lights on top of their car at all, and I don't even think they had the spotlight. There's absolutely nothing at all that indicated that they were the police. No reasonable person could have known who these people were because their behavior, speech, dress, attitudes, all of it said that they were just white trash punks looking to rob somebody, to fight somebody, to pick on somebody just to be picking on them. This is South Louisville. In South Louisville, it was a kind of a rough area. In South Louisville, right there on the corner where the bike store was, is where the prostitutes would stand. That's where the prostitutes would be at all the time, and there was always 3 or 4 prostitutes out there. And then there was my car had also got broken into. I remember I want to say when U of L won the championship, the guy pulled right out in front of my house. He pulled out a gun from his backpack and shot it like 4 or 5 times in the air. So it was a little bit of a rough area. It's a poor, mostly white area, but it was a rough area. Okay, so after Joel Cassie pulled the second aggressive maneuver with that plain white car in the middle of the intersection, blocking my path, I figured I only had 1 or 2 choices. Run or fight. So flight or fight. Run or fight. So I stood my ground, and I resolved that if the person who was bullying me had stepped out of the car, it did not matter who it was, I was going to hit them. Joel Cassie then opens the door, and he's wearing a baseball cap and a flannel shirt. A baseball hat, okay? So plain white car, guy in a baseball hat and a flannel jumps out of the car. And so as soon as he opens the door, I took a step or 2 towards him, and I punched Joel in his head as he was trying to get out of the car. It was a split-second decision, and it wasn't even a good punch. The punch slid off the top of the head. So I punched him on, my right, it'd be his left side, and it just kind of skids off the top of his head, like that. And let's see, the punch slid off the top of the right side of his head, his left side, my right, and he was surprised by it. He'll say that he said that he was a police 1,000,000 times, but he never said it at any time. Definitely not as he was exiting the car, because he didn't have any time to do so. He had no time to say that he was a police when he was jumping out of the car. While he was spinning around and cussing at me, maybe he might have had a moment or 2, but this all happened so quick. I know that they didn't say it, so this is just a bunch of lies. Oh, yeah, I did say it. Do you have any proof? No, but it's my testimony, and I'm a cop, and, my lies will hold up in court over your truth. So he didn't have time to do so. So as soon as that door popped open, it was on like Donkey Kong. As far as I knew, I was being jumped by some local white trash thug, so I stood my ground. I was tired of bullies, and I'm tired of being bullied. In the grand jury testimony, Joel Cassie said his hands were in the surrender mode when he opened the door. But he also says that he was the police. So he opens the door, and he sees me coming, and he's like, "Oh, police, police, police." Does that sound right? That doesn't sound right. Because it's a lie. So after I swing the punch, Joel's still standing, and then he comes at me and he's trying to punch me, but he wasn't able to land anything. I'm squared up. I'm ready to fight these guys. But I didn't really want to fight, but what other choice did I have? So I'm squared up, and we're kind of tussling. I wasn't swinging too much at them, but he was kind of swinging at me, trying to grab a hold of me, but I'm just sitting there kind of just blocking everything. So he wasn't able to land anything, no body blows. He couldn't grab a hold of me. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw another person get out of the car. This is Aaron Browning. And he came around the car. This again, the second white trash thug. So another white trash thug is jumping out of the car, circling around me. And he came towards me. Okay, so great. Now there's 2 people I have to deal with. I'm having to deal with this one white trash guy. Now his buddy's jumping out of the car. So I'm trying to keep an eye on this guy, and also, keep an eye on Joel at the same time. And as soon as Aaron Browning comes around, he starts to swing punches too. He's trying to land some punches. I think he kind of sort of landed a couple body shots because but they weren't significant. They didn't knock me down. They weren't able to get a hold of me. They couldn't drop me. It was only after I surrendered was when the violence happened. So eventually, while we were skirmishing, one of them said something about police. And I was like, immediately I froze. I was kind of stunned. I was kind of like, what? No, you're not. No, you're not. What? You're the police? And when they said that they were police, it didn't make any sense. None about them said that they're the police. So I raised my hands up. I took a step back and I was looking over them, scanning their bodies, trying to find something to see if there's any evidence that they were indeed the police, like they said that they were. Eventually, I saw a piece of badge underneath Joel Cassie's flannel shirt. And that's when I basically believed them. I wasn't 100%. I was still skeptical. But once it looked like they were the police, and they both had serious faces on their face, I immediately surrendered. Okay, so now what? I put my hands up. And here are 2 seconds where it gets a little hazy, okay? So I put my hands up and I was kind of like, now what? I don't know if I asked those questions, but it was just kind of like we stopped fighting. I stopped squaring up and I just put my hands up. I backed up and put my hands up. And, once I put my hands up, these 2 seconds, it gets hazy because I'm not for sure exactly what happens for these 2 seconds. So I got my hands up. And what I had recalled from the very beginning was that they ordered me down to the ground. And I get down on the ground, I'm on my back, and then while I'm on my back is when they punch me. But I'm not 100% about that. I'm not for sure exactly how I went from surrender mode to being on the ground. That made sense to me. Now, Aaron Browning and Joel Cassie testified that Aaron Browning had tackled me at that moment. That could be possible too. I mean, since I didn't know what happened, perhaps I blanked, and so I've gone back and forth between those two because I don't recall. I think that's the safest answer. I should just say that I don't recall because I would err that I had remembered correctly right after the incident, but then they had testified that they had tackled me. So then I kind of took their story and kind of filled in the gap that I didn't know for sure. But since I'm not 100% sure, I don't remember exactly getting tackled. I feel like I would remember that very vividly, getting tackled and being, going down on the ground. So I don't recall. I don't recall those 2 seconds. What I do recall, so I just don't recall what that, but what I do recall was that I surrendered. I definitely surrendered. And when it became clear to me that they were the police, right, I surrendered. And then in 2 seconds, I was on the ground, on my back. And with my hands by my head. And Joel Cassie was the one standing on top of me. So regardless of whether I laid down or whether they tackled me, the chronological order of events are still the same. I'm surrendered. Whatever happens in the next 2 seconds, now I'm down on the ground on my back. And Joel Cassie is standing on top of me. Okay, so I'm lying on the ground on my back with my hands by my head. Joel Cassie standing over me. Now, he sees an innocent man on his back and he just thinks, okay, I'm going to attack him. So once I surrender myself, I'm taken down to the ground, and now Joel Cassie wants to get revenge. Now he tries to punch me with the cowboy punch. So as I'm down on the ground, he's like looking at me like this, ready to, punch me right into the center of my face with the right hand. Okay, and it's a cowboy punch, so it's one of these punches that come way back here. And this is a full body, right? You put your whole body into it. It's full power because it's like a rubber band. You pulled back as far as you can, so it's a full body, full power punch. But it's also, you could see it coming from a mile away. If you just boop, 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 jabs are like real quick. But a cowboy punch is like this. It gives you a half a second to actually do something about it. So when he pulled his, fist back and he's coming towards my face, I turn my head. So I'm lying on my back. I see the punch coming towards my face. I turn my head and he punches the concrete right behind me. So he's like, boom, damn it. And now he's even more pissed off. Now he takes his left hand and he reaches back and then, he pushes, he actually hits me. And he gets me and he punches me and he breaks my nose, shatters my nose in 2 different spots. And so when he actually punched me the second time, I didn't even, neither time did I put my hands up, which would be the natural reaction. I didn't even put my hands up. I didn't even put my hands up to protect it. I see this punch coming a mile away. When I was squared up and fighting with them, they couldn't land nothing. But as soon as I surrendered, that's when they took me down. So he punches me in the nose with a cowboy punch, a full body, full power cowboy punch with his left hand, shattering my nose, breaking it in one place and cracking it in another. I've had 3 reconstructive surgeries and 1 surgery where they just kind of tugged on it. I didn't even put my hands in front of my face. Okay, I just resigned to the situation. They're police officers. What can I do? He's going to punch me straight in the middle of my face, and there wasn't anything that I could do about it. But I was standing up. When I was standing up and I was squared up, they weren't able to handle me. It was only once I resigned myself and completely surrendered and was 100% compliant. That's when they attacked me. They punched an innocent man who surrendered while he was on his back. And it reminds me of the Frederick Douglass quote that the level that you submit to will be the level of injustice that's perpetuated upon you. When I was standing and squared up and I was skirmishing with them, they couldn't do anything. It was when I surrendered, they took me down the ground and they punched me in the face. Why were they even doing this? Why did any of this even begin? Because I was just walking at the wrong place at the wrong time? I wasn't committing any crime. I wasn't running away. I'm a perfect victim. I did nothing. I did nothing wrong whatsoever. And it's kind of bullshit because it's been a struggle. But let's carry on. Okay, so once my nose is broken, I sat up and my nose is just bleeding all over the place, and I'm cussing at them. And I'm asking them, what in the fuck did y'all do that for? Why'd y'all do that? I didn't do nothing. I was just walking down and now I got cop troubles. Now I'm going to be looking at the jail time. Why'd y'all do that? And so, I just kept on kind of going on with that theme, like, what the hell did you all doing that for? And I told them I wouldn't do anything wrong. It's bullshit that now I'm looking at charges, having to go to jail. They seemed humbled by me kind of cussing them out because they just sat there and just kind of listened. They told me they were listening to see, who I was and what I was about. They told me to sit off to the side on the sidewalk while the commander, until the commanding officer showed up. And they didn't even care to wipe the blood that was dribbling down my face because it was, it was shattered. My nose is, off to the side over here. And it's pretty bad. There's some pictures, online. I made a video of it right afterwards. They didn't even care to wipe the blood dribbling down my face and got mad when one of my answers, I was talking, they were answering me like, what's your name and all this other stuff. And when I was talking, blood was dribbling in my mouth and it spit some blood out. And they're like, oh, don't spit blood on me. It's like I wasn't spitting blood. I'm talking and blood is just dripping down on my face. Since I'm handcuffed, I can't do anything about it. And eventually, and if he wasn't near me, he wouldn't have, had complained as much. But the commanding officer gets there. He wipes the blood off of me at least. Then I get into the EMS. The men in there are making fun of me. I also remember the $2 and change that I had in my pocket was spread all over the pavement. So, okay, that I remember the change first. Then I got into the EMS, and they're like, making fun of me. But afterwards, Joel and Aaron were being chummy with me. Right after the incident, they were being chummy. When they went to the hospital, they were being chummy. So, at the hospital and at the scene of their crime. And I think the reason why they were being chummy with me was just to show me that they were good people. Like, oh, we don't go around hurting people all the time like this. This was just a fluke. We're sorry. Joel Cassie would even told me that he just wanted to ticket me. Just a violation, just a ticket, and then just let me go. So he was trying to get out of it, right? He'd act like he was doing me a favor. I asked the sergeant or I asked the commanding officer if we could just ticket you and let you go. So, just shows you that, if I was such a big criminal, that why would he say something like that? So I think they were trying to show me that they're good people. They came to me to the hospital for an hour, then they drove me to jail where I stayed for 8 hours or so. While I was in jail, I did get hog-tied and beat up and sexually assaulted. And that was some bullshit too. And I went to the professional standards unit. I went to the internal investigation, sex crimes. Nobody gave a shit. Nobody gave a damn. So the system completely has failed me. Unless this civil lawsuit is successful, this is the only way that I can get any kind of justice. So Joel also would tell me that if I would have ran away, he wouldn't have chased me. So I'm not a priority. It was just a violation. He just wanted to give me a ticket, go home. If I would have ran away, he wouldn't have chased me, right? So, what was the reason? Why did they do this? What was the point of all this? Why did they attack me for no reason? I was just walking. That's it. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's it. So I'm the perfect victim. I did nothing wrong. I wasn't running. I didn't have anything in my hands. I had committed no crime, and I was just walking. So I think what pissed him off was first when they did that, U-turn, I didn't jump out of the way immediately, so pissed off their pride and ego. I said, fuck you back to them. So if in their mind, they're like, well, we're cops. How dare you disrespect a cop? Well, it's still not a crime, right? We got freedom of speech. but they were plain clothes. You know, there's no way they were thugs. They were white trash thugs. So to think that because they said fuck you first and I said fuck you back, so to think that that's the crime, but that's what pissed them off, right? I didn't jump out of the car. I said fuck you back to them. Then they jump out of the car and I punched Joel. That's the reason why I got my face broke. But that's not a crime. None of that was a crime. They kept on escalating the situation that they had started, until they did what I assumed white trash thugs would have done anyways. They beat me down. If they were white trash thugs, they would have beat me up and robbed me. But because they have a badge, they're able to beat me up. I had to take the punch, right? When I'm lying on my ground, I didn't even lying on the ground. I didn't even put hands in front of me. You see a fist coming towards you, and you just like, okay, thanks. You know what I mean? Like, thanks, may I have another? That's crazy. That's crazy. That's not right. That's not just. People just go, you have to just accept that. You have a right to defend yourself. You have a right to self-preservation. And so, you know, just their pride, just their ego, because they're used to being untouchable Billy badasses. They're the Leviathan. They think they're above the law since they're the Viper unit. So they're special teams. They don't have to wear any of the uniform or the sirens or stuff. They can just go around anywhere that they want to and just start fights any place at anywhere that they want to. And so that's what happened on December 7th, 2012. That was at least the incident. There were medical bills that I have to endure, and then there were long-term consequences. I even still have breathing problems today. When I immediately after it happened, my nose would whistle. And so, I mean, how embarrassing. And for a year, I looked like a monster. So I had to walk around. I didn't even want to leave my house because I just looked so damned hideous. And they really messed me up. And it's 4 years later, right? Nice, quick, and speedy trial. 4 years later, and what are we going to do? They're going to put on a show in court. We're going to put on a show in court, and whoever's got the best demonstration is the one who's telling the truth. This is just kind of crazy. They didn't have video cameras. They didn't have any evidence. I mean, I don't see how they could defend anything that they're doing. And they didn't hesitate at all when they put me on trial. Yep, we're going to go ahead and put you on trial, make a case against you, and try to ruin your life. And then now that I'm suing them, it feels like everybody's trying to say, no, don't do that. You know, settle. You don't want to go up against. What they did was criminal. If I went around and just punched a cop in his face after I tried to run him over and I'm cussing at him, would I get away with that? How did they get away with it? You know, if I went around just doing that, I'd be plain clothes too, and I could just say that I'm the police. And how could anybody actually determine if you're the police or not? Just because you said you're the police? That's it? Well, I'm the police. You know, Mitt Romney said he went around impersonating police officers. So if somebody is impersonating a police officer and they say police, I just got to say, okay, cop, you know, if you want to punch me, rob me, do whatever it is you want to do. I don't think so. You know, you like to think that most of the time cops act lawfully, but they're human, and power corrupts absolutely. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So to think that somebody with power wouldn't commit a crime, I think is insane. And at no point in time, they weren't even worried. I said, well, I'm probably going to end up suing you. And they was like, good luck. Good luck. It's like they wanted to. They like the fight. They like the struggle, right? So it's like a rapist. They like it when the rapists fight back, or when the victim is fighting back. And so they're like, oh, good luck to you. You know, go ahead and sue. We're not going to get in trouble. We're not going to get in trouble for anything that we did. They put 4 charges on top of me, including a felony charge. So I was looking at 5 years in prison. And, you know, like I said, I got sexually assaulted in jail. And nobody gave a damn. Nobody gave a damn. I tried to say that this is happening in their jail, but if I'm the jailer and I got jailers, you know, sitting there sexually assaulting the inmates, I wouldn't want that done in my name. But apparently Louisville allows that. That's acceptable. These are the officials. These are the ones setting the example. They're the ones starting the fights, starting the violence, starting the rape. And if you're in favor of violence and rape, are you in favor of murder? You know, stealing, violence, rape, these are the worst crimes out there. So if they're able to get away with those crimes, is there anything that cops are allowed to do that would get them in trouble? So, yeah. It was bullshit. I was just walking. I wasn't doing a single thing. I was just walking to the store. Walking to the store with a pocket full of change in my sweatpants, and outside in the nice cool rain, just, you know, enjoying my walk. And then, bam. Now I'm on the ground, beat up, and they told me they're cops, so now I got all these cop issues. I told my girlfriend at the time, Miss Shawn, I was going to be right back. I'll be right back. I'm going to walk to the store, come right back. But shit's dangerous. You could walk out the door, and 5 minutes later, something could happen, and you not return. So That's what happened December 7th, 2012 in Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm about to have a trial coming up the 24th, 26th, 24th, 25th, and 26th. So wish me luck.